Today we will be solving quadratic equations using square roots. You can solve quadratic equations using square roots when you have x squared equals a, where a is any positive real number. Let's look at some examples. It could be as easy as x squared equals 25. In this case, you would just take the square root of both sides. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other in order to keep the equation balanced. The square root of x squared, the square root and squared cancel each other out. So we're left with x. And then the square root of 25 is 5. But remember, it could be positive or it could be negative 5. You remember 5 times 5 equals 25, or negative 5 times negative 5 also equals positive 25. What about x squared equals negative 81? So, if we take the square root of both sides, we get x equals, but there's a negative there. There is no real number where the number times itself is going to be negative in any way. A positive 5 times a positive 5 is 25, and a negative 5 times a negative 5 is 25 up here. So they each end up with a positive number. So there is no solution here. That is why you can only use this when this here is positive and real, and this is not positive. So there is no solution to this. Alright, what if we had x squared plus 10 equals 10? Well, we said it has to be in an x squared equals a format. So we need to get the x squared by itself. So in order to do that, I need to move this positive 10 over. Since it's a positive 10, I have to do the opposite. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. Now I'm left with x squared equals 10 minus 10 equals 0. If I take the square root of both sides, we get x equals 0. So we can use 0. It would just be one answer, and that answer would, in fact, be 0. Let's look at another example here. Start on a fresh slate. Alright. What if we had 16 x squared minus 49 equals 0? Well, again, we need it in that x squared equals a format. So I'm going to add 49 to both sides to get that out of there. Now I'm left with 16 x squared equals 49. Now my next step, divide by 16 to get x squared by itself. And now I have x squared equals 49 over 16. Now I take the square root of both sides. So again, the square root and the squared cancel each other out. And then when you have a fraction, it becomes the same thing as the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. The square root of 49 7, and the square root of 16 is 4, and this could be positive or negative 7/4. And that is your answer. What if we kick it up another notch here? What if we had x squared or x minus 5 squared equals 16? Well, in this case, I'm actually going to take the square root of the whole thing, and then the square root of 6. So that's going, the square root and the squared cancel each other out. So I'm left with x minus 5 on this side. And then the square root of 16 could be either positive or negative 4. So this can be a positive or a negative 4. So I need to find two different answers. What if this was a positive 4? And what if this was a negative 4? So now I have x minus 5 equals 4. Or x minus 5 equals negative 4. Add 5 to both sides. I get x equals 9. Add 5 to both sides. I get x equals 1. So in this case, I get two different answers. It could either be 9 or 1. They will both give me the same correct answer. All right. Let's look at one or two more examples here. Let's get a new, fresh, clean board. Right. What if we had x squared equals 18? Alright, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. The square root and the squared cancel each other out. The square root of 18. I don't know that. I know 4 times 4 is 16. I know 5 times 5 is 25. And I know 18 somewhere in between them. So what you can do in this case is actually use your calculator to find what the square root of 18 is. When I plug this into my calculator, I get 4.24264 something something something. So I'm just going to round it. I'm going to do x equals 4.24. Like I say, if they don't tell us how far to round it, I always round it to the same decimal spot as money. So 4.24. One more example here. What if I had 2x squared minus 66 equals 0? Alright, so I'm going to move everything around. I'm going to add 66 to both sides. I'm left with 2x squared over here and a positive 66 over on the other side. I'm going to divide by 2 to get x by itself. Now I have x squared equals 33. And then take the square root of both sides. Square root and squared cancel each other out. Square root of 33 is not something I have memorized. I plug it into my calculator. And I get 5.74. Something we forgot to do on the other one as well is this should be positive or negative. It can be a positive or a negative 5.74 or 4.24. That's all I have for you today. Your assignment is page 571, numbers 22 through 34, evens only, and number 43. Happy problem solving!